We are live on the YouTube streaming. Hi, I'm Tom Britton. Over there, which side is he on? Is Jonathan Pritchard. We co-host a show together called The Seance. I don't usually dress like this, but it's a special occasion.
Only on days ending in Y.
Well, yeah, this is just the thing I had to lay in my closet. Thought, hey, it's Friday. Let's dress up a bit. We're watching, I forgot the name of the movie, Nosferatu,
Nosferatu.
1922. This just came into public domain is how it fell on my radar. I was I just had a website that popped up, I think on Lifehacker, that said all this cool stuff is falling into the American. If you're international, you have different earlier public domains than we do. And it gave a bunch of art from the 1920s, some of which is still particularly influential here in the States. And this was one of the films they listed as being public domain. And so I thought, Jonathan's never seen it. I've barely ever seen it, by the way. Film festivals are where they'll show this. This is one you kind of want to talk over. It's an important film, but I don't think it's maybe it doesn't burn. It's got really cool stuff in it, and then it's German noir filmmaking. I'm gonna
Fantastic.
drop. Give me 1 second. Put it back on my. Boom. Dropping a lower third for Elite University. I have questions for you about this. So this is a thing you just launched, and
Yeah.
I bought a course on how to memorize things really quickly. What exactly are you doing with that?
All sorts of weird stuff because it's really tough to communicate how my performing world has informed the business side of what I do. So a lot of the psychology of how my show works has direct ties to sales, negotiation, and everything. So sometimes companies like BP and State Farm, United Airlines will bring me in to do what I do and explain how it all works so that their teams can use those principles in their own sales and stuff. But if you don't work at a megacorp like that, good luck. You're never going to see me work. So this is where I'm starting to put all of my ideas and courses and training that I do on a corporate level, but accessible to people who want to get better at public speaking and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like I've learned how to travel the world and be one of the best in the world at what I do. So that's the kind of elite level that I play at, and all my friends are world class. So if you don't have the amazing friends like I have, well, this is where you go to learn awesome stuff that they know.
Gotcha. That's the closest thing you'll get to an ad the entire night. I just want people to kind of know what you're doing, because I'm currently doing IT at a restaurant. Come eat. Like, I got nothing to promote. I'm like, this is it. I just kind of got bored and wanted to wear a vampire costume. I'm going to kick this off. There's going to be a few awkward moments of silence as the video on my end syncs to the video on that end. Bear with us. It is just the way the world works now. This is the 1922 Nosferatu.
I love that we're using 21st century technology to start a 1922 movie that we're talking over in real time. I love living in the future.
There's layers to it, playa. It's crazy. If you're wondering where the sound is, I'll remind you it's a silent film. So this is in the public domain, but if you perform in an orchestra, and for example, James Bernard, you will not hear music by James Bernard on this. The original, so it's a whole twisted thing that happened with the rights to this thing, but essentially the original score was lost. So anyone who has a score to this has made up their own score, and then performance is copywritten, blah, 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 blah. So we're just going to kind of talk over it. Obviously, feel free to grab a kazoo and make your own soundtrack at home, or if you could beatbox, you get a whole remix of that.
Or if you have a cat that's very needy and because of 2020 has become even more neurotic and attached, you can have that cat provide the caterwauling background noise.
The cast is absolutely
Orlock.
remarkable. Yeah, Count Orlock, because you can't use the real names. So Hutter and Ellen, his wife, and so there's the Harknesses. There is no Von Helsing. There is no cowboy character from the Bram Stoker novel. So while this is very much, and you'll see a lot of similarities to the Bram Stoker's Dracula, So what happened was the director really wanted to just make Bram Stoker's Dracula. That was the goal. I'm going to make Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I'm going to try and get the rights. And then in true artistic fashion, oh, I can't really get... Well, we'll just start making the movie. Fix it in post. And so he starts making
build
this
it
movie.
on the way down. It'll be fine.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission, I guess is also the phrase.
So was this one of those things where they were just shopping the script around and two production houses were like, this is a good idea, and one of them got the real rights and then the other one said, we still want to do this, so we'll do the knockoff version, kind of like Doomsday or something? Like, there were all sorts of... Universal and the other company would make the same movie but call it something different with different actors every summer, right? Is this kind of that?
It's the first iteration of... The other problem is that Bram Stoker really only made money off of Dracula, and his widow, her only income was residuals, if you will, from Dracula. So what you had is kind of a one-hit wonder whose wife is trying to stay alive, keep making a living, and all she can really do is closely guard this one precious jewel. Had Bram Stoker been just more lucky in his hits, she might have been a little more relaxed, because even at the time this was well reviewed. It was seen as a nice piece of art and a new medium. Here comes our hero,
Right.
our protagonist,
We're
and a
in.
sucker. He's a sucker in this one, just like he is in the original novel.
Is this the him that the credits were referring to? Because it was his wife.
Yes, and there's his wife.
Got it.
Yeah. And then Count Orlok will be very obvious when he makes his appearance.
I'm upset that they didn't credit the cat, because
Yeah. You'll notice the
that cat
sepia
already has
for
stolen the
day.
show.
This film is trying to make it very clear this is daytime, new tech, and when it becomes nighttime, and that's very important in this film, right? You're going to see a complete shift in color tone. And so it's a very kind of strange thing.
That's amazing that even with black and white, you can still play with the tone to denote daytime warm, nighttime cool. That's
And
really interesting.
That from plays where you would have done that on the stage with lighting, you look at this is shot just like a play. I mean, here's a close-up
Yeah.
insert, but that wide shot is just two actors on a stage, right?
Yeah. Also, I wanna call out the chat room, because at least two people that I could notice commented that the cat is dead now.
Or
thanks
is
a
it?
lot, you joyless harpies. That is amazing. It's undead now. It's undead. It'll unlive forever. Undead. Yes. Yes.
Okay, here's something unusual about this film. You're going to see outside shots, which are very hard to do back then, and this would have blown your mind at the cinema. If you're
Right,
sitting
because
there at
the lighting is
1922,
different. A cloud passes, and suddenly all the exposure is wacky.
yeah. And well, also the idea of how did they even get a camera outside? Like that was as an audience member, you'd be like, whoa, that's not a... So that's very different from every other movie at the time, is that the director's pushing the camera outdoors.
One of my friends, Brian Brushwood, had a brilliant insight that every art form is applauded for looking like what it came from when it begins, and is made fun of for looking like what it came from as it advances. So movies look like a play because it's very straight on, very arranged, like this is a stage play, and the camera is static, and the audience goes, I know what I'm looking at. This is like a stage play, but no people. And then nowadays, if we made something like this, you'd laugh at it and be like, what are you doing here? That's ridiculous. You're not using film the way that film can be used. So I thought that was a really cool insight.
And this style of acting, too. I mean, this is an actor who is trained to hit the back of a theater with every expression, and that works really well in early days of film. And then once actors kind of learn what close-ups are and insets are, that acting, it's too much of that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have, I think it was someone like a Douglas Fairbanks type, a very swashbuckling silent movie actor who had a high voice in real life, and he couldn't make the transition to the talkies. So
Right.
someone who was perfectly suited in looks and looked like this one, just happened to have a high tenor or maybe a lisp or something, a speech impediment. Their entire career, Al Jolson's the jazz singer, comes out and they see their entire career crumble in front of them. The same thing with this character actor, who, by the way, is playing a character who will go insane. If you ever read the Bram Stoker novel, the rat guy playing in the asylum with the rats and talking, "My dark lord, I hear you." So already you could tell from the makeup, a very hammy
Yeah.
makeup, very hammy character, and the
Why,
director is
why
telling him,
is
"Go
he
big, go big."
fondling the lapels so much? Like, that is a
See what he's
very
gotten though?
like,
It's a cursed missive
oh, okay. Got it.
and cursed eyebrows. Very, very cursed eyebrows.
Very haunted eyebrows.
Those eyebrows have seen some stuff. Ooh,
The bigger the eyebrows, the greater the magical powers. That's the magician's
it's
rule.
the
really.
Gandalf rule.
Yeah.
But that whole moment where he's like thinking and then looking off, that's a stage actor. Who there are no movie
Right.
actors really. The first arguably experimental films are 1889. This is March 4th, 1922, when this debuts in Germany, and then a few months later here in the States.
Before they realized that the camera can read your mind. Like, that's
Yeah, dailies aren't
one
a
of-
thing. Dailies
Right.
are very much the stuff of engineers. You don't go and watch your dailies as an actor yet. You will in about 10 years, but the process is still so. You would do multiple takes that hold cut, check the gate, print, because the can of film could get screwed up in processing. And so you just hope the good take is on the can that actually got processed. Also, film's insanely expensive, so you don't get many takes, which explains a lot of the acting you'll see in this. Is probably not. They probably would have loved to do it 8 or 9 more times and really drill down on the character, but times being what they are.
Yeah, physical media being what it is, it's not infinite.
We're lucky this is here, though. So the widow of Bram Stoker sues the bejesus out of this, and these guys, this film studio made one film. You're looking at it because one technique to get her off your back was to go bankrupt. So they bankrupted,
work.
sold to, I think it's Deutsche Films or something like that, but just German films. Another studio owned the rights to this. So now they have no money. The judge finds in her favor, because this is very clearly not a derivative of, it is the stealing of, agreed. Destroy them all is the verdict. And only because it went worldwide and was a bit of a big release do we have any copies remaining. And especially this 1080p scan. The nice thing about old film is that you can scan it at 2K, 4K, maybe even 6K, because it's larger. 35 mil is going to be tough. 8 mil is going to be tough. The larger
Right.
print actually helps us get these. I mean, look at this. This is 1922, and there's not a lot of noise on this shot. It almost looks like I applied a filter to it.
Yeah.
In fact, wait here. I can do. There we go. I can make you black and white. You'll see it in a second
Hey, I
on,
like
on
it.
YouTube.
There we go.
But I mean, our filter looks not as good as like this thing, this sepia.
I love that my screen to watch it is over here, and it just looks like I'm looking at you the whole time.
I'm panning the room. I'm like checking stream rates over here and I'm watching the film there.
So, is it that she's upset that he's happy? Is that it? Like, he's got this really ridiculous idea that I'm going to go with haunted eyebrows man, and she's going, this is a horrible idea. And he's like, you don't understand. Okay. Left his grief-stricken wife and the care of his friends. Yeah,
She's
like,
grief-stricken
if my
because
wife
she's
is ever
having
stricken
psychic
with
visions,
grief,
though.
I'm leaving. Like, why stick around? The icky emotions.
Right.
I'm going to go with the person who has the biggest eyebrows. I'm going with them.
Classic German cinema. She's getting psychic visions that he's going to be in trouble. And that's a theme throughout Bram Stoker's book, is that one of them is constantly having premonitions in the form of dreams, that something's amiss, something's wrong. And in this, and if you ever read Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's told in an epistolary style. It's all journal entries. And so there, especially the first bit of the book would be incredibly dry without that. 'Twas a normal day today, but I fear something is on the horizon. This film's the same thing. The director's trying to establish happy marriage, not a bad guy, not a bad woman. This guy's kind of crazy. He's got weird eyebrows, right? What's that all about? And also her being just fretted about something that she can't explain is the only tension you're going to get, because these outdoor shots are not amazing us like they would in 1922. And after about the fourth one, I guess even their novelty would run off. you know.
Do you understand how heavy this thing is? We brought it outside.
Have you seen a modern movie camera? Dude, no one's seen a modern movie camera. There's like 6 of them. Carpathians rose before him. Carpathians.
Many a dusty road until finally the glowing peaks of the Carpathians rose before him.
Oh, I definitely have the biggest eyebrows, Ashley. Tonight, I've had them. They've been painted by the lovely wife. Most horror before this was not taken seriously. Like, there's only arguably a couple of horror films before this, and the horror is played more for laughs, almost like you would at a horrifying magic show. A horrible magic show, different effect. But you would get that, or like at a haunted house, and then you laugh. This is actually, especially once it gets to the creepy scenes, we may find them a bit humorous, but audiences then, and certainly the talent in the camera there, the talent you're watching on. So now we're at night. You see night to day transition there? Okay.
And now it's inside, warm.
Yeah, and it needs to be that obvious. One, for the purpose of this story later on, you need to know when in the novel, Dracula is only weakened by sunlight. The whole death by sunlight thing, you're looking at where it came from. This is where the whole sunlight kills vampires part of that comes from. Arguably, this director may have heard it from, there's a lot of vampire myths, especially in Germany at the time. They love that story a lot. He may have heard it somewhere else, but really there's not a lot of people that can find anything other than just, you can do a big gory death with a stake to the heart like the end of the novel. You can do that now at the end of the Lost Boys when they're staking all the Lost Boys, right? Or you can do what this director could do, which was just kind of Dracula gets killed by sunlight, trap him into getting into sunlight. He wears his eyebrows on his lip, which I find very interesting.
It's the style.
It's the style. And so once you've established a vampire's weakness, you really need to, and you do this interior shots too, either the audience needs to really understand inside the castle, is it night or is it day? Or that's the twist, is that I ripped down the curtain and I've tricked you into staying up past dawn. If you're not doing either one of those. So now, the wolves, or that looked like a zebra wolf or something, but it scares horses. What is that? Tasmanian wolf?
I don't know.
Is that extinct? Was that a thing in the 20s?
I bet you $5 that doesn't, like, not that specific one, but its whole species probably doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, poor buddy. The German zebra wolf is no longer with us.
Yeah.
The height on that bed is impressive.
Extinction where we dance.
She's a tiny little thing. Now, Chris Longer guesses a dingo.
With an extinct German zebra wolf for food. See how fat you get.
Oh, they got some access to this animal, though. That's not an easy shot to get. Okay, so one of the subtle ideas of the film here is that the precursor to the Nosferatu are so this is his lead team coming into town. So that's why she's having the psychic visions, is that his energy is moving into the area. He's made contact with the realtor, just like in the novel, this cat. And now you're also seeing creatures of the night coming in. A welcome wagon, right. An opening act. They come into a quick 10, warm up the crowd.
All right, we're going to freak out a little bit, but not too much. We got to leave some room to really amp it up in the third act.
Also, if you're driving a Honda license plate J2847, your lights are on.
I like this vampires, monsters, and the 7 deadly sins. Like that's pretty fantastic.
Well, if you're paying your nickel, back in 1922, you want to give the people a lot of bang for their buck there.
A lot of evil in as few pages as possible.
Really move it.
Good evil per page ratio.
Well, and also dominant media. There wasn't a dominant media. Newspapers were very, very, very hyper-local, so you can't rely on common knowledge as much as you'll be able to in the 30s, 40s, 50s as radio. One country will kind of have at least a common knowledge. They all listen to the same soap opera during the day, the same, like Lone Ranger for the kids at night.
Yeah.
This is pre that. So really, as a filmmaker, as an artist, you got to make sure your references, if they need to be explained, or you need to go, It's like a werewolf, like a vampire, like a mummy. Everyone got it? Moving on. You've got to
Yep.
drill down.
I love that the title cards are like a page out of a book. Like because early days in vaudeville where you had the big old cards that you had on the tripod. Well, that's what those interstitials would look like, and now they're playing even with that medium of, oh, and we're just taking a page out of the book and putting it on screen. That's super cool. And the horse is all freaked out about something.
I got to admit, though, some of these shots are still impressive. I mean, some of the animal training stuff, I mean, some of the stuff is still hard to do, no matter how lightweight and HD your camera gets. There's, in case you forgot about the vampires and deadly sins.
Oh,
Let's get naked. Ho ho ho. I'll
that's
just
what I like to do early in the morning is laugh at evil, throw a book on the floor,
and get topless.
and then bare my chest.
Okay, so this shot now would cost $500,000.
Womp. Living in the future is tough, everybody.
Yeah, it should. There it goes. It should correct.
Yeah.
So the reason
So
for that,
how,
if you're playing along at home, we turned on low latency so we can react to the chat, and so that Jonathan can react to the movie. I'm playing it from my computer, so it's going from my computer to YouTube to his eyes. So while I'm seeing it a few seconds ahead of you, he's seeing it at the same time you are. To overcome that, I cranked up the. I sacrificed buffering in order for real time.
So yeah, so I'm seeing it as the same time as the chat room, but then the chat room is hearing me responding to it in the delay. So there you go. Welcome to Jonathan and Thom's janky 1920s film.
If it weren't a pandemic, honestly, we've got the microphones. We'd just be sitting next to each other on a couch, and like, you know what I mean. Then it becomes it's piping another person in. That became the technical monument on this side.
Yep. Now, do you know how they made the color film? How they tinted it when it's black and white time?
There are like 17 different ways to do it. I remember going through a few because there's a very early color photograph, way earlier than you think. I'll pull a date out of my bum and be wrong, but way earlier than you think color photography should be a thing. And that's because it's almost sort of a hand tinting process with the chemicals. And so that's not going to scale. So then the inventor goes back to the drawing board. Meanwhile, that was a French photographer on the other side of the world. There's, say, a German or an American inventor who's got this other, and then eventually it kind of gets the right answer. Like the development of the light bulb, same kind of thing. There's a bunch of iterative ideas, and then it gets down to a couple, Tesla and Edison, and then someone eventually sort of, gets a version that will scale and be affordable. Is the other problem is those early versions. Like, sure, I could pay a person to sit there and essentially hand paint celluloid. How much is that going to cost me, and how many photographs am I going to have? Smash cut to the Polaroid, and you're out the door.
Right.
That's a beautiful transition wipe though, with the castle.
Yeah. Because earlier in the film, it kind of had the stop down, and that was just very smooth. Wipe out.
And there's special effects in this later as well. Now, there's no need for them yet. We've not yet introduced our vampire, who only has, like, I think 9.5 minutes of screen time. The actor who, there's a rumor that he was a real vampire. Of course, you encourage those sorts of rumors when you're promoting a film. There he is. Max Schreck, I believe is his name. In truth, he was just a very serious actor, a very serious character actor, and a bit of a wacky guy. If you watch Shadow of the Vampire, John Malkovich plays him in that, I believe, and he was a bit of a loon, a bit of a goofball. And so when you asked him, like, I heard there was a rumor you're a real vampire, he wouldn't go, oh, pish posh, that's ridiculous. He goes, yes, what if I were? And like get in your face and act all creepy. And what, wouldn't that be insane? Ah! And like just being funny, but quirky, weird kind of funny. So it kind of persisted. And he also, being in the showbiz and arts, now look at this negative.
Yeah.
To give you a disturbed feel. That's not an accident. That was in the original film. He put it in as a negative in that shot so that you felt weird, disturbed. That's wrong. What's wrong? Well, guess who just met his protagonist? And that doesn't look like a good
That
place
guy
because it's
over
in negative
there.
with bats.
Looks like you got a bad case of bats in the belfry.
Also, this guy is the dumbest human being. Now, there's an argument that he's ensorcelled or enthralled, or there's some sort of, hypnosis going on that makes him so. Because when you see that person driving the carriage, or in the book, when you see the hints he sees that his wife is arguing, like, are you not seeing this? He isn't. But this, this walks out and you go, no, this is cool. This is fine. And you need to know because the lighting, this isn't daytime. Because it looks like daytime.
Right.
Hence, our color scheme becomes useful to me sitting in the cinema going, wait, doesn't sunlight hurt them?
No, Tom, it's an artist's commune. It's fine. It's fine.
This film
Amazing.
was a big deal, right? So it debuted with a masquerade ball at a zoo. It went till 4 a.m. for its debut. That all films should do this, by the way. Zoo, then a masquerade ball till 4 a.m. That party cost more than the film. It's got fun trivia over here. Look at those. Those are power brows. Hashtag power brow.
Hashtag power brow.
It is nearly midnight. The servants are asleep.
It's 60 eyebrows in 1 hour.
Come. Nothing suspicious here. Just walk in. No big deal. Come on. Into this incredibly dark area, impenetrable to the light. Meanwhile... Oh, this is the bread scene. This is awesome. So in 1979, Werner Herzog remakes this film. You can find... I believe this is it, unless there's more than one dining scene. No, this is it. You can find this scene. Werner Herzog, who reinvented German cinema, he's amazing. Loved this movie and remade it in 79. And find this scene on YouTube and look at the difference between the two. Well, one, you can hear words. They're talking. But also, it is horrifying and I'm blanking on the actor's name who worked with Werner Herzog, who plays Nosferatu in that one. It's right on the tip of my tongue. It really goes for it. And so, there's blood. He's slipped with the knife and cut himself. And this is just terrifying if you know anything of the vampire. If you're sitting in the theater and you're like, oh, that's it. He's dead. He's dead. He's dead.
Right. Now, a question about the interstitials here, like the green. Was that hand painted, you think?
Yeah, no, modern. That's just somebody putting in they've lost the original prints or they couldn't scan them high enough.
Yep. So now he thinks something
but that's
might
good
be wrong.
acting, though. I mean, that's for a stage actor. Like, it needs to read in the back of the room. That is not... Okay, that's questionable, but...
I like the no-neck look. That's it's pretty daring.
The deepest sleep of all. So this happens at dinner and you think, I'll stay the night and see what happens in the morning. I really need the sale. That's hilarious. Your wife. That's a fun thing to say. Your wife just said she's had Tinder dates like this.
I was 5 of them.
And so I think that's the original interstitial there. But I don't know for sure.
Cool.
And so we just don't have those. Somebody just thought green looked creepier. And he just passed out there. Just hung out there till the morning.
What did I do last night? Where's that hyena?
Why's my thumb hurt? Well, back to selling castles.
Refreshed.
Or am I? Oh, remember? Huh? Do you? No. Oh, what?
I like his bindle.
Look at that.
Uh-oh.
There's trouble.
Left a hickey. She's gonna know.
That's what she was worried about. Such a strange shot to just the food.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
We paid a lot of good money for catering. Nobody touch it. Actors, hands off. It's for the shot.
And now he's famished from all of the bleeding he's done in the night, I'm assuming. He's got to refresh himself on some very cold food and some stale-ass bread. Enjoy!
And he sits down in the dude's chair. Like, not in the guest seat, but in the head of the table. Mighty presumptuous.
It may be in a different cut of the film where he references the 2 bite marks, complaining about the mosquitoes bit him twice and so close together.
Like, we gotta communicate that he's a real dweeb.
There are multiple cuts of this film, too, so once the studio that doesn't go bankrupt buys it and it kind of gets a second life, cinema also, before it was a real thing, you recut it over and over and over and over again. There's another cut of this that's called like The Curse of Midnight or something. Additional scenes were added. It was recut, and that may be where I'm getting that from, is that it's... Oh, I think this is the scene, actually. Never mind. I believe I'm just ahead. I think this is where he's bitching about the mosquitoes. Yeah, okay, there we go.
So the whole thing of
quite close together.
Reboots and remakes in Hollywood is absolutely nothing new. Since the earliest days of cinema, that's been a thing.
And this is considered the same thing as like early YouTubers. You know what I mean? Like Luba Luba Guy or something. You know what I mean? Like putting Mentos in Diet Coke. It's not at all taken seriously until someone signs a $20 million contract or something, and then suddenly it's... And then, unlike, I think, a lot of that example, this later becomes art and enshrined as such. And so you see someone, you know, like Orson Welles, who cites this as a reference, or someone like Werner Herzog who cites this as a reference, and it becomes the genesis of genius passed on through someone else.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, all the different remixes, remakes, additional footage. An actor is not that hard to make someone look like Nosferatu, because who's under all that? It's a lot of makeup. So you or I could both play that part, right? So they did that. So they reshot scenes with Nosferatu, and you really couldn't tell, especially given the quality of filming at the time. They did that with Brandon Lee and The Crow in the 90s. So it's not unheard of to use stunt doubles and stand-ins for other reasons.
Some more drastic than others.
This is my favorite interactions are between him and the Count. Just that's the look of a man in love. Lust love. How do you swipe on this thing?
Read a room. Like, this is what you're interested in. This is what you like. Okay.
That is the worst pickup line for propositioning a threesome I've ever heard. So now he's going to move in across the street. This is my sitcom pitch, by the way. Is Nosferatu's the wacky neighbor who's always popping in at the last minute with like a cute girl on each arm. And he's happy. He sold a house.
Nailed it.
Done,
Got that
honey.
Commission.
Boom. I'm coming home to you. I think also in that scene, the Count recognizes the woman he's tied to psychically in that moment, maybe. So that reaction wasn't just one of lust. It was one of like, that's who it is that I've been linked with. Maybe. I could be reading a lot into that.
Right, because that might be why she was so upset, was that she was the lightning rod for his attention kind of thing.
Arguably, she's one of his familiars in advance, kind of. Like whatever that wolf was. And rats are also, you'll see later, a big theme in this, is that that Count is causing the Black Plague, or caused, back in the day, the Black Plague, because wherever town he went to feed, rats came with him. So he sort of trailed the Black Plague with him all over Europe. And I think that's one of the old myths in Germany
Like
of
you
the
do.
Nosferatu. Look at this shot, though. This is the shot.
Oh, wow.
And terrifying at the time. I'd put that in the same category as in the not great movie Signs, where they first see the alien on the boom, and that stinger hits you, and
Yeah.
the brilliant reaction from Phoenix in that. A similar reaction will be had in that moment in the cinema in 1922 when you're just going, oh, he looks so cool. And from here on out, you're going to see everything that inspired every Dracula movie. This is all the Hammer films. This is Christopher Lee's walk in those films,
Right.
only a 6.5 version. You notice Nosferatu barely fits through the door.
Yep.
And he was,
And that atmospheric light too, with the diffusers and making light part of the set.
and I bet that makeup looks really dumb in person. The camera degrading it helps it look more realistic and natural. And here she is, just smoking her pipe.
Hitting that hash.
And these are
Mama's
the scenes that
coping
lost them the
vapors.
lawsuit, because this is right out of the book. The walking to the window. Oh, it was him smoking. I thought that was her smoking that insane bassoon. Which, Ashley, I know what to get you for Christmas now.
Woo woo.
One of those pipes. She knows her own stunts, ladies and gentlemen. Fetch a doctor.
Fainting goat gymnastics. I think that's what that was.
This is back when doctors came to your house. Of course, that was back when diagnostic equipment fit in a briefcase.
Sounds like it got a case of demons. Better do cocaine about it.
Let me just inject this in you. So that's her. So now you see the psychic premonitions getting more obvious.
Right.
But her hair looks fantastic even when she sleeps.
You'd think that she had warned Abraham Lincoln there that he's going to have a bad day soon.
And you're starting to see some of the, this is also German noir, those elongated shadows, and you're going to see some really weird camera angles. And that's where it becomes not an American film, not a British film, where you start to see the German noir sort of hallmarks that Werner Herzog loves so much.
Yeah.
This is
they're playing with the juxtaposition of the framing of him looking to the right, her looking to the left, so that you know they're looking at each other even though they're separated by distance.
Special
The
effect.
framing of the cutting means that they're talking to each other, which is super neat.
And even then, they knew to do that somehow, like the 90-degree angle rule and all that kind of stuff. They figured that out very early on, even without dialogue, you know. But that door closing's arguably a special effect. He has psychic abilities, and so you're going to see a lot of things moving on their own. And yeah, he's definitely giving her some cocaine.
For that congestion of the blood, got to get it pumping. Bird of death.
She's got that hot blood, Ashley says.
Bad case of hot blood.
Oh, it's a good name for a jazz song, though. Meanwhile, in Fuchsiaville, my keys. Is that? It kind of looks like Groucho. Or sorry, not Harpo, Zeppo. It's a little like Zeppo.
What did I do last night? Who did I do?
Also, why do you live in Bilbo Baggins' house?
Yeah, well, that's Gothic architecture.
The Hobbit wing of the castle.
Transept barrel vault.
What's it called?
Transept barrel vault.
Nice.
Because they figured out that an arch can support a weight, and then they're like, wait a minute, if we put an arch next to an arch and next to an arch, then that's how you get long ass tubes. That's how you have a long distance to span without needing those columns every 12 feet. My architecture class is coming in handy.
Who knew? Look at that. Oh, that is just iconic. Only 20s kids will remember. Welcome to I Love the 20s.
I wonder if the lid was too heavy for him to be in there as he throws it off. Right? 'Cause that...
But then he just flees. He just takes off.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to notice when he wakes up in the evening, wait a minute, I swear there was a lid on this thing. Hang
So
on.
that's what was so drafty.
Wait a second.
Did they know how to spell "da fuck" back then?
Wait a minute. They're both suspicious of each other. Wait a minute. Is that person creeping around while I'm sleeping? Boom. Special effects. How creepy
so
is this in
violated.
1922?
So is the read here that dude's moving really fast?
And super strong. And boom, psychic.
Yep. Oh, right, because he moved it with his mind.
And also, I think much like the way The Ring or like some zombie movies will do, where they'll drop a frame every now and then, and the actors will also kind of, with their bodies.
Yep.
I think for some people, just that herky jerkiness, probably in the 20s, set off that same alarm of like, oh, I don't like that. Make him stop. Good, gross.
Yep.
I don't. And then we rode away. They're like, okay, good.
Jeff in the comments is saying, coming soon to Penguin Magic, PK Coffin. I love that. Yeah. Pick the jaunty coffin for my night about town.
Also, this poor guy can't move 20 feet without taking a nap.
Right? Like, he's weak. But also, what I don't understand,
been bled out, I
just
guess.
saw the dude leave. Why not walk out the front door?
Yeah, I think the door was locked at one point, but yeah, it's not.
Yeah, and I like put my rudder on the front.
Ellen! Yeah,
Nothing
what
like
is...
a sinister load. What?
Also, I like the foreshadowing from the card. Like the raftsman knew nothing of what was coming ahead.
Just so you guys know, there's something coming. Like,
Cues the
okay,
piano
I
player.
got it.
Banana, 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 banana. Nothing.
Let me go get my banjo.
Back to bong dong 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 dong. You can tell how learned a man is by how insane his hair is. The more you look like late era Mozart, the smarter you are.
How drunk do you have to be to fall from a mountain? That's... The neighbor said he had fallen from a mountain. Like,
Some raftsmen found him. There. 'Twas there. Coffins. We need a musical version of this exact film. One song that's just Ellen. It's a duet between the two of them. Another one is just coffins, coffins. And just coffins moving by themselves on stage. It's a lovely Busby Berkeley-esque 200 coffins pirouetting.
springtime for coffins in Germany.
When you recount for life. Meanwhile, on the set of a different play,
Ooh, swarthy swashbucklers.
this is where the coffins were going. So he packed himself up and then ordered himself driven to that schooner.
This was before FedEx, and you had to psychic yourself everywhere.
All right, these poor souls have no idea what they're in for. Because he did not pack any lunches. I can't even read that. That's not important.
Right. I think the point is it's official.
Oh, good. It'll be okay then. There's a seal on it.
Silly, those letters could mean anything.
Also, yeah,
Who
all these sailors
reads?
can read. That's a good point. It says they're just boxes full of dirt. Oopsie.
So what is it that he's leaving for? Was it because he sucked the dude dry and there's nothing left?
Fleeing, but
Or-
yeah. Oh, they're looking. Rats.
Oh, I guess because was it because dude discovered his nocturnal habits and that he sleeps in a coffin? He's like, the jig's up, I gotta go.
Yeah, he's got to go, but he doesn't want to leave any of his rat friends behind. And that's the real lesson
Yeah.
here, guys, is never abandon the little people who got you where you are.
That's right.
Chris Long
'Cause
points
they
out
will
there's
eat
that
you on the
spout
way
of water
down.
going in the background. He just pictures someone on a pump in the background, and 100% that was a set, very clearly a set. And there was
Yeah.
definitely some poor PA who just wants to break into acting one day, pal, who was back there just 18-hour day too, long shoot, like can't get the shot, the actor's being weird.
One day the bilge pump, maybe tomorrow the fire hydrant.
Step 3, profit. I mean, this looks exactly like the way you'd stage a play, but you'd move the guy in the front out of the way.
Right.
This person's explaining what vampires are. They're like, predators that eat things.
That they eat like what is this eating things?
But
Yeah,
maybe
I'm-
pre-National Geographic, would we have known what a Venus flytrap was? Might that have also been a little cool thing to be like, wait, where's that from?
Yeah. Be like, what fantastic things these filmmakers dream up.
And you could take credit. Yeah, you could be like, wow, that looks just as real as the dinosaurs in last week's serial.
Chris Long's asking if your robe looks like that teacher's robe.
Oh yeah, my entire wardrobe looks like that. It's my entire closet. It's just suits and then velvet.
I love that it says a fit of raving madness. I wouldn't think it's like a fit and start of raving madness. To me, raving madness is more of a duration event.
It's more of a lifestyle, really.
Right. Just like,
Than a fit.
start raving mad. Not, he was raving mad, then he's fine. He'll be over it soon.
This actor's having fun, though. Look at this. I mean, chew all the scenery you want. This is the guy that eats flies. This is the guy who talks to rats. This is the guy he stands vampires, as the kids say. The vampire
I
stand.
ship it.
He ships
ship
it.
it.
Bay. Vampires are bay to this guy. But just look at this. He is just, I mean, there's no such thing as too big in this scene.
I like that he's catching it with his left hand and then eating it with his right hand with no transfer. That's the coolest magic trick I've ever seen.
The delicate art of not giving a damn.
Yeah, dude, that guy's AI is way off because he identified a human as a fly. Like, not really working all that well.
Again, passing off nature as special effects and or showing people things they might just not know about.
A polyp with tentacles. And it's shimmying. Watch out, everybody.
If they put it on rice, I'll eat it. I mean, honestly.
Nearly weightless.
No more than a phantom. Was that like a half iris? That was weird. Like the
Yeah.
wait,
They're
no.
like, they
Just jump
get it. It's a transition. Screw it. It's fine.
This is just to creep people out. This goes up into the 50s. The late 50s, you'll see just shots of spiders, just shots of cockroaches, just shots of rats, because about 15% of any given audience just right now goes, I can't. It just sets off phobias and bugs, no pun intended, bugs people. And so that insert's purely there for that duration because the folks who were bothered by spiders just got bothered by spiders.
Right.
I mean, till the 60s, arguably, maybe even... I'm trying to think if there was a scene like that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where like there was cockroaches and rats in like the house. Like that's 70s. This is my favorite. I think all the interstitials should just be redone to that. Like, it looks old-fashioned enough, but a nice font.
Uh-huh.
Let's
Such
go hang out in the
penmanship.
graveyard by the beach. Later, some bocce ball, or whatever that's called.
I
Strip
want you to
croquet
bury
from
me by the
Heather's.
dolphins.
Also, they suck at this game. That is not how that game is played.
We don't observe rules here.
We just hit the ball and giggle. Apostle. So he bought the house across the street from them. He had to move. Remember, he goes from England to Transylvania in the novel. So it's set in Germany, and then I don't remember where. I think it's a different part of Germany that you get to by sea, apparently. You go up around England and then back to Berlin.
Weird.
Yeah, the castle is set in Germany, but then you have to have this voyage, and I don't know then where they are stationed. They didn't really establish that.
I'm Googling Germany map.
Yeah, you're not going to find a whole lot of ocean routing.
It's all on the north side
Yeah, it's
is water. Huh.
so he just sort of went for many
Meh.
days though, because that was a lot of coffins, and then you'll see at the end the sailors have had a bad voyage.
Like, was dumping coffins a standard operating procedure back in the day?
Something about that document that I couldn't read made him suspicious. He dumped it out and then was like, nope, it said rats and dirt. I guess I'm wrong. Load them in, boys.
I wonder how long they can survive being buried, because if you think about the topology of that shot, they got dumped out and then they were on top of the dirt that was at the bottom. So they had been buried alive for who knows how long.
So she finally got that letter about the
Plagued
rats.
by mosquitoes. Bitten me on the neck. It is definitely not hickeys I got from going clubbing. It's mosquitoes.
The least believed mail she ever got. Like, oh, sure, mosquitoes right next to each other. Okay.
I am tired.
Buffering in the original
Not
theater
from
actually would have been
clubbing.
when the person on the camera got tired of cranking. He'd be like, okay, hey, or if the organist had a double feature, they get real lazy, just start
Yeah.
playing chords. Just like, you get it. It's a train. Figure it out. They're on, look, it's a boat. You got it? Meek, 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 meek. That is a beautiful shot of a sailing ship, though. I mean, I think I've gotten a little lagged even further behind.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, there it is.
Yeah, like,
I mean, legit
how did they get
gorgeous.
that drone to do that?
That's the other thing. Yeah, you're in a, you don't get a zoom, so you're not on shore shooting that. You're in a boat next to it with a heavy ass camera rig that costs a ton of money and ain't waterproof.
Stuck on the front so that you don't see the other ship. That is amazing.
There's so many, that technique of establish, iris, just sort of like, meanwhile, don't forget this is happening. I got this iron in the fire, and this guy's over here, and they're all coming together. Wait for it. Don't
Yeah,
forget about
'cause
this
it
cat.
really is a complex technical language that they walk you through early on. It's like designing a video game. Like, have an area where it quizzes, like, shows you the situation. Oh, here's how you get out of it, and then they test you a little bit with a couple bad guys, and then they just throw everything at you, and now they're really just putting it into full effect.
That's really analogous, too, if you think about how quickly video game language developed. How very quickly you had tropes and you had ideas and you had things you didn't have to explain immediately for gamers. It became very, I don't know, codified, I guess. They discovered it really quickly. And some of it they learned from, the movies, learned from plays, the video game developers learned from movies. But some of it's just artists really want to play with a medium. This may be my favorite performance, too, as you see the plague and the actor I think just because there's no stakes in what he's doing, he is kind of a side character who has no real impact on anyone other than it's showing you how serious this madness can get for the couple we care
Mm-hmm.
about. And so knowing that as an actor, you can go that big hammy face, but I just love it. I think it works now for me. And when I watched this before by myself, I enjoyed watching his performance. I thought that's fun. It's like the gravedigger scene in Shakespeare sort of stuff. It's your little standalone piece that you can really, the director's going to go, dude, I don't care. I hired you because you're good. Action,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, that was the most suspenseful part of the entire movie for me was
What?
watching that horse
Same.
go across the stream. It's like, what is going to happen to this poor creature?
We finally get to the sailing ship where the Wolfman is having some scotch. I mean, look at this guy.
Smoking and drinking, 8 a.m. So he's the Wolfman, right?
If he's not, he will be in the sequel. They're building a cinematic universe right from the 20s, man. It's crazy. Oh, yep, Delirious. That's Delirious, all right.
Delirious. I dated her. It's Wolverine. Yeah.
The crossover of a generation over 100 years in the making. Hugh Jackman, Max Schraft, Nosferatu versus Wolverine. Nosferatu's Civil War actually suggests special effects upcoming, guys. And these would just be mind-blowing then. So I've got a preview now on this screen, and then I'm seeing what you guys are seeing on my other screen.
Oh, wow.
Spooky.
Right. And I bet that was all done in camera with Pepper, huh?
Pepper's Ghost or double exposure is a known thing from, Abe Lincoln's day. So we're talking 1840s, 50s, 60s. They started doing double exposure with film, with photography, daguerreotype, I guess, that tintype maybe at that time.
Uh-huh.
So it was something that'd be, the minute you gave me a movie camera, I'd be like, hey, can we wind it back and do it again? And even you see that again, I keep referencing Citizen Kane, but you see shots where he knew to light it dark, and so he could put a foreground, like I'm doing with my hand. You couldn't do that in film. And so to learn to do this at the same time, you had to shoot one and then shoot the other and wind the film back and go over it. You couldn't simply do what we do now on an iPad. You do it on your phone, practically do it on your watch, do an overlay.
So that was him, right? Getting dumped over.
That was our Delirious, I believe. Delirious until death.
Ah.
But now they're beginning. So something's been getting them. I think it's down. Yeah, Jeff points out that video editing on an iPad is amazing these days. Yeah, I have a friend I follow on Facebook. He's on TikTok. Doug Kahn, a magician. He edits entirely on his iPad and does some fairly advanced editing work in shooting these videos. And again, you see the rats, and it's always a scary thing you see coming up. This down below decks, what do sailors deal with? And you're going to have all manner of crud. And then the most iconic scene in the movie. And here it goes. Every vampire movie ever.
Wow, yeah.
And I can imagine, if you put a modern audience back then, that's where they would applaud.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what they did in the 1920s when movies, they may have just been in stunned, awed silence, but maybe there would have been a woo, kind of, maybe a reaction. But though this is German cinema, now we're getting into these weird angle shots. So when you see this shot from down below shooting up at Nosferatu, you're going to see that's one of your hallmarks of German noir and what makes this movie so uniquely appeal to someone of German. You know, if you're a German filmmaker, this really inspires you.
Right.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's pretty cool.
Some strong Seventh Seal energy from, what was that, Sweden, I think?
Yes, yeah. The ship of death.
I like that he just tied himself to the ship so that he can't run away.
That's what you do during a storm, too, lashing yourself to parts of the ship. So maybe it's just metaphorical. Maybe it's also the only thing a sailor knows to do in times of panic is to strap down.
Things are going wacky.
The show must
Better
go on,
strap myself in.
Better to lash myself. If you guys know the film The Witch, it's like The Vavitch, but The Witch and The Lighthouse. A guy named Robert Eggers. There's a current rumor going around that he's remaking this movie. And if you don't know, The Witch was a really good slow burn psychological horror, which is kind of our modern version of this. With moments like that, like the Nosferatu coming up out of the coffin in the Vavitch. I don't want to spoilers, guys. If you haven't seen it, also it's 8 years old. Friggin' watch movies when they come out. You see like floating in the air. If you've seen Hereditary, there's a couple of moments of real special effects that kind of punctuate the otherwise rather, psychological horror can be kind of the mundane made extraordinary, the mundane made dramatic, punctuated with moments of real like, oh, okay, there's actually a werewolf in here kind of moments. So I'm excited to see if it goes through what someone like Eggers could do with this, because I did enjoy, and if you get a chance, we can't do it on YouTube, it's not public domain, but the Werner Herzog, 1979, I believe it's Nosferatu, something, like Nosferatu, The Silent Night. Just Google Herzog, 1979, Nosferatu, it'll pop up for you. And I'm imagining on streaming everywhere. I can't imagine it being like a hard-to-find film. He got famous later, though that film was more a local hit. There's also because this is German cinema, there were accusations of the time of anti-Semitism in this film. It is pointed out the director himself had a lot of Jewish friends, and so maybe that wasn't his intent to sort of broadly paint, but you see a lot of common caricatures and stereotypes of anti-Semitism in here. What we do know is that a lot of folks who eventually become Nazis saw this movie, and the othering of the vampire, the made other of the vampire, were themes that they used in a lot of propaganda films, and unfortunately lifted this imagery into their racism and extreme anti-Semitism, thus kind of backwards polluting the waters of if you watch it after seeing that, it kind of ruins it for you.
Right.
But as far as we can tell, no one involved in this production had any, sure they had all the same problems of modern men of their age would, but no one was intentionally trying to make any kind of anti-Semitic propaganda film.
Right.
And we still have these shots that I still think work. This guy putting the peeking out to see his master coming ashore finally, and the shot of the ship slowly coming in.
Taking its sweet old time.
I think it works too, because this is the moment that all those little weird irises have been building to. Finally, for him, he lays eyes upon the master's vessel. And again, the actor is, I think, killing it. I think that's the best you can do that character. It needs to be big. The eyebrows need to be insane. The licking the bars, trying to bite people, eating bugs. That's how it's written in the novel. Now, they took out all the sexuality of the vampire, obviously. That's a difference from here. And they'll get, Bela Lugosi famously puts it back in. The widow's peak and the cool Eastern European accent and the cool clothing. Like the vampire, I'm clearly trying to model myself on, because Nosferatu makeup is way beyond my abilities. Special effects. Oh, he's sad.
There's more of his telekinesis.
Exactly.
I gotta add more of that into my show.
That stop motion telekinesis, and it's just pause the camera. Just iterative. Jeff says I just didn't want to shave. You're not wrong. I haven't had a haircut since October, so I think getting just shaving that much hair off looked like I took a terrier out in the bathtub. Don't turn your back on the insane person. It's just kind of rule one of being a guard, isn't it?
Yep.
And that dude's also established he is really super duper insane.
On a scale of 1 to inmate, he's an inmate.
It's very binary in the prison system. It's a 0 or a 1. There's
Evil is live backward. Thank you a lot, Ken. That's it's going to stick with me for a while. I'm going to have a drink to that.
I don't know off the top of my head how much a coffin weighs. But I'm guessing that's 100 pounds, 150 pounds. I mean, it's oak or whatever. Or supposed to be.
You would need 6 people to move like a normal body.
Yeah.
Like you just need one strong friend to help you move a body.
If he's keeping up with the
6
lore,
pallbearers.
and 8 if they're going to dance.
Right.
That should be full of dirt, the dirt of his home country, and some extra rats he brought for friendship. But I guess if they're staying with the lore, then that thing is supposed to weigh 400 pounds, 350 pounds, or whatever. And this rather thin German man is just sort of walking along.
Do. Oh, taking my coffin for a walk, as you do.
Also, no way to not look suspicious when you look like that creature and also are carrying a coffin and just moving in. Just new neighbors. How you doing, fellas? What day's trash day?
Oh, my couch?
Just leaning on the
I
fence.
got it.
Working hard or hardly working. I'm Count Orlok. Please, call me Orly. The lighting on these inside shots. The outside shots look spectacular, but you've got golden hour to help you out with film. Inside shots, to me, are the real masterclass. And this lighting in scene being used as lighting in the scene is still a cool film trick to pull off if you're a nerd for that kind of stuff. All the big soft boxes up above you, but you use a candle or a lamp that the audience can see, so to speak, to actually light your actor is still a cool trick to pull off that only other directors would kind of pick up on, maybe, or nerds like me who really like this kind of stuff. It's a flex. Dude's flexing.
Nice. So he made it back. She hasn't noticed that he's been making out with Dracula yet.
Not at all.
I'm sorry, Nosferatu, because this is not Dracula. I don't want to get sued.
Legally distinct from Dracula. This guy
In
also
no way
carried that
connected
coffin
to,
200
except
miles
for in
on
every
foot.
way, Nosferatu.
Yeah, they're also arguably now Twitter-pated in the head. They're, cool special effect. So the coffin, and then might as well throw in a moment for the audience here.
Cool.
Yeah, okay,
Right,
and so that couple, arguably, he has been mesmerized in person and bled, and then she has been messed with from afar. So their reunion would seem rather pure to both of them because it's over. You've survived. We're okay now. And he's forgetting to mention that he sold the house to Count Orlok across the way.
Oh,
Or he's
BT
forgotten he did
Dubs.
it.
We have a new neighbor that I invited to stay over. By the way, we're boyfriends.
By the way.
Oh, so that lashing was a bad idea.
Turns
Okay.
out it just makes it harder to run from the Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Things they don't
That'll
teach
get
you
ya.
at the Charles Xavier School for the Gifted. That guy makes fish sticks. 100%. That guy makes fish sticks. I've had them. They're amazing. Das Fish Sticks.
Das fish sticks.
Das Fish Sticks.
Hunt for red fish sticks.
Right,
That's
Steven?
wrong,
That is
Louis.
exactly, that's the Gordon's Fisherman. I've had that man's food. this also explains why Nosferatu was schlepping a coffin so far. He had the GTFO. Because that's it. That's all the snacks have been eaten aboard the vessel.
Right.
Also, real quick, so I don't forget, thank you guys for watching this along with us. Really appreciate you. And
it's nice knowing you're here.
Chatting along, yeah, it's very fun. I like, and I'm gonna read these comments again later, so in case I missed something. So yeah, I appreciate you guys joking along and goofing off with us. We're gonna do this again with some Houdini films. Those have also become public domain. And I was mentioning to Jonathan, we haven't picked which one, but there's a lot of gold in the Houdini films, but they were not. You haven't heard of them because they're not great. They were critically not a success, financially not a success. Arguably, the only thing Houdini ever failed at in life was making cinema. But they're written like set pieces. Houdini has an idea where he can do cool stuff with his toes. So we have to find a way to get him tied up, hands tied above his head, so he can climb up a door with his toes, get the keys, and do the cool. And that is neat to watch, and he knew that because he'd done it on stage. He'd done it in, 100,000 times. Straitjacket escape. So he almost like diagrammed out all the cool stuff and then barely wrote a shitty plot to get between them. And that's the problem with the movie. But if you're talking over it and goofing off in chat and you kind of stop and shut up for the moments where you're like, oh, that's cool, then I think the Houdini films, and there's two of them, I'm going to kind of go through both of them and see which one has the least dead air, so to speak, or the most cool moments to kind of pop with.
I like the log here. Mate hallucinating.
Mystery.
Says a strange passenger is below deck. Course southeast, wind northeast. That it's just cold hard facts.
Rats discovered in ship's hold. Danger of plague. And then older Wolverine with glasses. Nope. Doesn't make sense.
Danger of plague.
And so that's what scares him. Plague, go home. And so now we see the theme of Nosferatu. And again, I think, and I take this with a grain of salt, I think there's an old German version of the vampire legend that this director pulled from, that's where he got it from. But I barely remember that, so don't quote me on that. He may have made it up all whole cloth. But that the plague is caused by a demon. The demon is followed by rats. The demon is feeding. The rat's plague, coincidentally, hides the demon's feeding.
Right, because there was a title card earlier that was saying, oh, the plague is advancing and there are these bites, so we know that it's the rats that are transmitting it, which was kind of cool.
Here goes the town crier. He previews with a drum, which if you're not in the mood for any news, there's no way to change that channel. Just a dude pum-pum-pum-pumming out your window.
Fake news, Carl.
Someone definitely yelled that at him at some point. Like, Carl? Do sports first. No, do weather. Do the weather.
Forbids the moving of plague suspects into the hospital to prevent the disease spreading through the streets. We're going to keep them from the hospital at home to keep them from the streets. Yeah. That makes about as much sense as we've seen.
And then it drums on down the road.
Yeah.
Pum-pum-pum-pum.
Open your windows so that we can tell you to stay locked inside.
That's true. Open your windows. Okay, now never open them again until I come back.
Just 14 days to keep the windows closed. Just 14 days.
I feel like this drumming could have been an email.
Yep.
So they don't suspect Nosferatu.
All the doors you didn't come out of, so that you can remember where you live.
You may not know this. There must be a term for this. So there is a mystery afoot. There's a vampire killing your folks, but you think you have a solution. Is there a term for that where you know the problem? The problem is the Black Plague. And so you quit looking for the real mystery?
We call that the garden path.
There it is.
In the magic world, where you give them the plausible interest where they think they've figured it out, but you give it just enough so that they discover it and then they go down the garden path to the conclusion that you want, and they will believe the conclusion they told themselves, so that they never go looking for the real answer.
I've heard this Stephen King, I think, called it "lead them down the garden path," and when you get them there, turn the hose on them.
Yep. You say, oh, I thought that said Hutter had imploded Ellen. I was like, well, that's a bit much, but okay.
Like also sinketh. The next title card says sinketh his teeth into his victim and feedeth on his blood. That's the way
in
everyone should talk.
Fashion.
Yes, and in the correct font for that. She's like, oh, fuck, come on. Oh, that's what I didn't want him to burden.
It's 50th shadeth of grayeth.
It's working.
Yep. She is enjoying that novel.
That is a strange, I don't know what the note was there for her as an actor. Just like, you're kind of annoyed, kind of turned on, and kind of afraid. Go.
Don't forget the first cock crow.
You never forget your first cock crow.
Nope. It was early in the morning.
I don't know.
Sure I was asleep.
I guess it's hard to emote to reading. Like, you more feel it inside there, director. Maybe I could be reading it to someone. Yeah, so,
Boy, this literary acid is kicking in.
Just continuously have the vapors over and over again, and action. So she's going to put it together first. You know what I mean? Everyone's trying to solve this mystery, and she's the one who's like...
So that building that's been across the street this whole time that I've been having visions about, I just figured out that that's what that is.
And, like,
okay.
The reverse of most horror movies, the guy's like, no, come on, nah.
Women.
Well, no, but it's kind of cool to be like, I'm going to give this, 1922, this woman who otherwise is acting the stereotype of hysterical is going to put two and two together before anyone else does because she's privy to these psychic premonitions that she's acted upon or paid attention to.
Yep.
Now, spoilers, because she's got that, she will now lay a trap for Nosferatu. Whoa.
Clever girl.
Clever girl. This was a job. Go around and light the lights was a job. Like knocker upper. You would come by with, I think it was actually peas in a little straw and ping on the window until they woke up. And a sudden you had a list of your clients. And then the knocker upper would stay up and then wake them up before you went to bed. So the knocker upper could go around and knock people up, so to speak. Different term back then.
Very
the knocking of up. Term. Now he's off to the races.
Now we jump forward in time because the tone changed.
We're also wrapping up to our exciting conclusion, I think. I think this is the time to really crank up the... And I think the same tricks they used when it was a little slow, all the irising in and out, they're now using to build pace.
Yeah, because the cut tempo is kind of faster, too. It seems like a lot more energy, except, of course, now there's like a 12-second shot. Thanks a lot, their director. Appreciate it.
Some of this is, I think, once you set the camera up, you're just not wasting it. It's just so much harder to get.
Yeah.
It's the Snyder Cut. It's the Snyder Cut theory. It's like, I'm putting it in, but we don't need a Martian Manhunter. I shot a Martian Manhunter. I'm putting in a Martian Manhunter.
I like that her decorations are just hand-cut silhouettes. Like that was the only thing on the walls.
Also, her dude left before the trail of coffins, and she could just point out the window and be like, huh? There's 2 and 2. What do you think, buddy? Into the house next door, right? What'd I say? I saw Coffins, death, drinketh, bloodeth, huh? Now what? Call somebody. It's not a plague. Ellen, it's a plague. I'm telling you, it's a plague. It's not a plague. Yeah, now folks are starting to not look well. You're starting to see the sickness upon our beautiful... What's the opposite of damsel in dude in distress?
Man in mayhem.
Man in mayhem. Those women would be 305 years old today.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I like that they're gossiping, too. So what happened was they strangled him, you see. Like, if you just ask the old women in town, it's not a plague. They're all wrong. They think it's a plague, but Ellen's got it pegged. Ah, wait. Looks like the jig is up.
It's like he's the Pied Piper for idiots.
What's going
Nobody
on up there?
looks up.
Boom.
Nobody
There's our
looks
problem. I'll throw a rock at it. Which will do one of two things. Either I'll get extremely lucky and kill it instantly, or probably just piss it off. Yeah, but Jeff's got the right idea. This needs the Benny Hill song for the chase.
Yeah.
Yakety
So
sax.
is that guy like a gymnast under all that makeup?
Wasn't that
Is
impressive?
that what that was? We're like, hey, we got to show this off a little bit. He can actually do stuff.
He's blessed with the coordination of insanity. Meanwhile, she goes
Got
back
that
to her
crazy
cross
strength.
stitch.
AKA Hypno Stitch.
Hypno Stitch. For the makers of Doodle Draw comes Hypno Stitch.
A compellingly good time.
Are you beseeched and drinketh of the blood of the Nosferatu? Try Doodle Stitch. Oh, here comes this whole back half is so eerily reminiscent of later the early editions of or early versions of Frankenstein films too. These but yet another red herring, because they're chasing the disciple, not the Messiah. So they run from one garden path down an equally attractive and easily accessible second garden path. And they kill a scarecrow along the way.
I mean, what are effigies if not for burning? That's why you make them, right? Yeah, no. He's seen some shit in the day.
These scenes, I mean, this whole, so there's our, as we ramp up towards the end, like these scenes are, I think, absolutely incredible.
Oh, okay. So he's just being a peeping Tom, and she's all like, yeah, I feel that.
But this pacing works at this point because in horror movies, even now, you drag, that long shot, the long, like, will she, won't she, will she, won't. No, don't open that. Don't go in there. The usually a little less visible angst on the actor's face, but still
Right.
that's sort of like, I'm going to go down in the basement. No, don't. And you slowly push in on the creature. And then she looks at him like, man, useless. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, and Chris is saying, good insight, the high contrast equals high drama. Right?
Oh.
Like, this is a lot more chiaroscuro and dark, lights.
I walk out of every scene like this shot. Just when I have to go to the bathroom or going to get the pizza rolls, I'll be right back.
That is phenomenal.
If you're not doing it that way, you're wasting a wall. And that's also German noir. So that looks weird, I think, in the 1920s in the country of its origin, that it's just a style choice. There was a movie before this that was like a haunted house film, the one I mentioned, that was more of a giggle kind of scare kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And you'll see a lot of that in that too, played for laughs. And in this one, that isn't supposed to be funny. That's supposed to look unnatural and alien and weird. And why is he walking that way?
Mm-hmm.
Finally, fetch Bolivar.
Here, you touch my boob. No. I'm going to leave the house. I love his the solution to all of his problems is leave.
Yeah, just bail.
Yeah.
This,
She's clearly
the
not
shadow,
feeling good. I'm leaving.
The long shadows and the long shadow shots. The whole back half hour of this movie, I think, is holds up and is cool and neat, especially if you're into cinema at all. Like, I just think this whole back end works. This whole, she's there alone. She's by herself. And this unstoppable demonic force of nature that at the time it's new lore. You don't know the limit of his powers. You don't really know what he can and can't do. He's psychic. He controls rats or is friends with rats. There's a wolf involved. It scares horses. He can heft a coffin full of dirt effortlessly. So you don't know that maybe holding a cross would do something as an audience member. You're not like, show him a crucifix. That hasn't really been established yet in film.
Right.
Help him into his jumpers. And the pace on this is intentionally, I think, getting quicker. I think they're figuring out this idea and establishing he's been feeding on her and lost track of time. That's the trap she laid for him. Because he was in her mind, she was in his mind.
She's got that hot blood.
She also knows his weakness when others may not. And that dawning of realization on his face and of his familiar, his we joked about him being a vampire stand, but yeah. They're psychically linked somehow. So she's privy to information no one else is and wisely makes use of it. She's the hero. Sacrifices herself too. She's the hero using herself as bait. Oh, weird. Sorry. So, Ashley, your comment, now everyone can see it. I have to set this to like for adults. It was like, this comment's hidden because it has the word boob in it. Sorry, that's a button on YouTube somewhere I'll untick. If you guys put anything in chat that was above a Disney level and it didn't show up, I'll go back later and unhide them so at least they'll live on in future.
Way to go, Ashley.
And caught in her trap, she beat the vampire. And this is where it first gets established. Previous to this, you see in the Gary Oldman Dracula him walking out in the day, following Mina around. It weakened him, and that's how they were able to kill him, is in daylight. The group that was assembled, the cowboy from America and Van Helsing and the Harkness and all these other guys, they attacked him in the day because that's when he was weakest. But this is because simply that's what the budget has, baby. I'm not going to do a big, bloody, gory. How do you even do that? The film is like a minute and a half old, people. I'm going to instead do what I can do, which is take a plate, get my shot, and then put him there and then overlay it, and he'll fade and it'll look amazing.
Then we'll set the set on fire.
And this is what I like. The German, when you're watching like any sort of foreign horror movie, and up until recently, American horror movies, we always had kind of a happy ending for our heroes generally. They did not guarantee such results abroad. Now we have a little more variety. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose in America, but it used to just be there had to be one that survived and beat the villain. In this case, you didn't know for a fact that they weren't all going to she wasn't going to die from blood loss, having sacrificed herself as bait, hero, and martyr, which is very German. Good news, killing a vampire gets rid of the entire plague.
Who knew?
Who knew? It's crazy. One lady saved them all.
I like that they chose to scroll instead of doing a second still frame.
And as long as you got a castle, you want to definitely make sure everyone remembers that castle. Remember that castle we spent so much money on? Huh? That castle, guys? Remember that? Isn't that just the most fun?
Made it.
I mean, that is to me, I mean, granted, I'm clearly a bit of a film nerd for this kind of stuff, but it just, overall, I think it holds up as far as old cinema goes. If you know like Hammer films and you know modern filmmaking, you really see the roots. I see why someone like Werner Herzog would be really into it. How someone who's a real director could sit and watch it, because every frame is a seed of someone else. Like you saw Swedish filmmakers in there. But even as just someone who's a bit of a nerd about the stuff, even the dry bits, I thought, well, it is a miracle they're even able to capture that at that time. It's a testament to technology that I could even watch this now. And then Ashley mentioned if we do the Houdini one, just seeing Houdini on film would be amazing. Yeah, seeing how that man moved will surprise you. Like the athleticism is remarkable. You see a little bit of what they saw on stage back then that made him so damned famous is captured on the film. And that's why I think it's a shame that the films overall weren't good movies, because Baby with the Bathwater, there's real moments of joy and real moments of gold in those Houdini films as well. Just the same, I'd argue this. I'd argue I could make you a 20 or 30-minute cut that wouldn't tell the story correctly, but every shot would be like him coming out of the coffin and the elongated shadow, and then some really nice, the stuff on the ship and the ship sailing away and the coffins being run, and you would kind of get the gist of it. You know the story of the vampire. But you'd also have seen all the meat that's on those bones you could cut together, but it would take 30 minutes to get through it all. There's a lot there.
All the meme-worthy stuff, yeah.
Especially the meme-worthy stuff. I mean, I was watching What We Do in the Shadows, and in both versions, the TV show and the movie, the coming out of the coffin is, in fact, it's a joke a couple of times in one of the, I think it's in the movie, where he's in a little bit of difficulty. And that's really cool. Also, if you haven't seen that, we can't watch all these on YouTube. They should get paid. We should be renting them. They deserve to make a living as artists. I'll show them meet back here in 2437, and we'll take care of that. And also that incredibly weird Nick Cage movie, The Vampire's Kiss, which is him at his cagiest.
I never saw that.
It is a yuppie thinks he's turning into a vampire. Unreliable narrator, maybe he is. Famously, it made him a bit famous because there's a scene in which he eats a cockroach, in which Nick Cage, just ate a fucking cockroach. There was no special effects. Just gonna eat it. Just gonna eat the cockroach. What's the big deal? Just eat a cockroach. And he did that and got a little bit of press as a result of, like, even at the time, Chris Rock, the reason I know about this is because Chris Rock made jokes about, if he'd been in a porno, I would understand, but you can fake it if you're in any other kind of movie. The things you put in your mouth don't have to be real. But I think it's absolutely amazing. Like there's some nuggets of gold in these old, and this is a very old film. I mean, I've gone way back to the beginning for the first one. So we can watch Houdini experiment next if you're down for it.
Absolutely, yeah. I would love that. And I've never seen any of his movies, so yeah, I would be up for any of them.
I think this is the way to see them too, because like I said, this was a hit that we just watched at the time. It's difficult to age gracefully, even when you're the undead. Don't I know it, darling? I think Houdini's films, even when they came out, people would be saying what I was saying was like, hey, I loved the toe thing, loved watching him escape from a straitjacket, and since I live in a small town, he's never played here, and I've always heard about him. The rest of that movie can go to hell. It was boring as crap, and he's not a great actor. And that's the reviews you got in the moment for Houdini. And so those films just right down the toilet and don't even really get shown that often. So yeah, I think he's got a birthday coming up soon. So we could do it then. Although he was Houdini,
Yeah.
publicity at any time is appropriate for Houdini's legacy. The man never stopped promoting.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun way to do his birthday instead of doing a seance.
Yes.
That'd be great.
To actually watch something he cared about. And even though it failed, I'm sure he put every ounce of blood, sweat, tears, and talent he had. He just turns out had no gift for cinema, which was as big a surprise to him as anyone else. He had succeeded in aviation, succeeded in magic, and then escapology, and then spiritualism, and then just being a like David Bowie-esque, like just legendary thing. Because you get so famous, you become a persona. He played that very well. He had a successful relationship with his mother, successful relationship with his wife, his brother. Just wasn't good at cinema, and I'm sure he went, really? Huh? Well, didn't see that coming. He wasn't a man who knew failure. And I think a lot of it was talent, right place, right time, drive. I think he probably tried just as hard at making movies as he did at being the first person to fly in Australia, as being the greatest escape artist New York had ever seen, and then Paris, and then London, and then the world had ever seen. He just swung and missed. So yeah, we'll queue him up for next time. I'll do the same thing I did before. The Eventbrite tickets are just a reminder. That's why they're free. It's some people like me, I would forget. And so if I don't have YouTube notifications turned on, so you can find it however you find it. We're on Facebook. This is my YouTube channel. You can also subscribe. It'll pop up if you use YouTube enough to get notifications. Also, we'll all put the Eventbrite tickets to whatever we're doing just as a reminder. Obviously, you don't need a ticket to come watch the show. And then where do they find out stuff about you, my friend?
Yeah, Twitter is where I'm most active. I pretty much live on there. I think of it kind of like if we're stuck in a 15-hour car ride together, same kind of vibe. So you know what that looks like. And that here is kind of where I'm sharing all my tips, tricks, and secrets and whatnot. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of building my tribe. So there you go. That's it.
Yep. We can do it again. We'll do it again soon. Make sure you like the video so other people see it on YouTube. That actually helps the algorithm with full YouTube. If you haven't already, just click the like button. I don't care if you subscribe. I don't make a living doing this. $0 in, $0 out. And we'll do Houdini next time. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for doing this with me, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. It was really fun.
Dude.
And you don't want to watch that movie without friends to talk shit about it the entire time. So it's the best way to watch some of these old films. All right, we'll see you all again in the future.
Sounds good, man. Later.